Herbert's 100 harem. He held his breath as the chitinous black predator moved above him. She could smell him, but this close his scent was overpowering, and she couldn't pin him down any more thoroughly than in this building. Both soft and hard, rounded and razor-sharp, she was built to hunt down impertinent beings like him. On all six, she slunk into the chamber, her long tail tipped with a brutal blade waving slightly as she scanned the area with the massively powerful sensory organ within her elongated black skull. She was looking for him, and if he fell even somewhat within her cone of vision, or if he had even passed within it recently enough to leave a trail of body heat, then he would be found. Unfortunately for her, he was literally right under her, as in, if she moved back even a little, or had faltered in her step even slightly, she would have freaking stepped on him. Of course, at this range, it also meant that any Axiom shenanigans on his part would have him instantly discovered, but that's not all that much of a penalty when it's a date at Defenestration Nation. A big game where he honed his stealth abilities and they got better at hunting. A win-win to say the least. Then her communicator goes off and she groans audibly. She pulls it out of a pocket tied to her leg without looking down, leading Herbert to wonder just how surreal this is getting. She activates it in a projection mode to show a holographic image of another Zayden. Hello? Grandma! It's so good to see you. It's wonderful to see you too, especially having such fun with your husband. Isma coos at Ymira, who gives off the shades of confusion along her Axiom patterns. Isma points down, prompting her to look. Way to spoil the fun, old-timer. My scent is saturating the area, and I was under her line of sight and making no noise. Herbert complains, but has an enormous smile on his face. Consider it a lesson in advanced stealth. Sometimes you simply have rotten luck and need to improvise. So what's your plan? Well, first I pay the penalty and then I'm going to vanish, Herbert says. And that penalty would be, woo! Isma begins to ask as Herbert rises up, then kisses her granddaughter full in the mouth and starts to feel all over her. Ymira reacts big time, picking him up with her 3 free hands and pulling him close, even as his hands get under her bra to give her breasts some attention. The blatant make-out and groping session continues, even as Ymira wraps her tail around him to bind them close, and then he leans back a bit. You've had the taste. Catch me on your own if you want a full meal. Then probability shifts and twists as Herbert starts wrenching on the local Axiom. Reality contorts in response, and then suddenly Ymira's arms are empty and her tail is wrapped around air. Oh, he's certainly a treat. What did I tell you? Stick to it and you'll win him over. He was wrestling with things a bit more internally, grandmother. He didn't understand how things work outside cruel space and was trying to be careful, Ymira says with a smile. But you still pushed, I hope, Isma says before biting back a laugh as Herbert reveals he hasn't gone far at all. So much so, he steps over Ymira's slowly uncoiling tail to watch the conversation from behind her. If you want me to leave, just say so, he mouths out, and Isma chuckles to herself as she shakes her head. What's so funny? Oh, just that I was calling to advise you to push harder on your husband to hump you down more because I very much approve of humans now, Isma says, and has to fight back laughter as one of Herbert's eyebrows rises theatrically behind her still oblivious granddaughter. She's unaware that he's constantly stepping over her swaying tail to avoid revealing his location. Really? You said you were unsure if they were all that strong with how shy Herbert was acting and needed to see what they were doing for yourself. And I have. I've seen a human put an Apuk war princess in fear of her life. Shaymari was always a spiteful bitch, but too strong to face in open combat. Yet one of the humans here on station did it anyways. By the time the fight slammed into my home, she looked like death warmed up and he looked ready for murder. He nearly died, but I was there to help the little fellow. Although it did take a bit to figure out why a war princess would be so dedicated to the death of a man. What happened? Oh, the usual. Murder, intrigue, deception, bombs going off, and this time, in the middle of it all, was a small team of human bounty hunters, the leader of which pushing himself to his limit in battling a war princess to spare his crew from harm. Is it really that surprising? There's apparently a bunch of human sorcerers now, you know, those APUC super adepts. Well, apparently humans can learn it easily, Ymira says, and Isma tilts her head. This projector is showing the flow of Axiom on her, too, so Herbert can only smirk as he sees how baffled Isma is. A light back up. Human sorcerers? That'd be Vernon. He went to prove himself outright unstoppable with Axiom behind him. Herbert says, startling Ymira a little and prompting Isma to laugh in amusement. What's going on? You were hiding right behind me? People tend not to expect that kind of nonsense, Herbert says. As for Vernon, yes, he's an axiom master, but he's fairly unique. Outside of Cruel Space, there are about 100 humans with his kind of mindset, and so far when it comes to the really over-the-top axiom shenanigans, only he and Franklin have really pulled it off. The rest tend to be more esoteric or practical. I see. Anyways, just calling to let you know that any reservations I might have had of you being with a human are gone. Not that I had any to begin with, but it's best to let you know such things. After all, having the level of sheer raging gall that these humans have can only be a good thing, Isma says. And on that note, it's time for me to start running again. The chase makes the fun at the end all the sweeter, Herbert says, taking a step backwards and falling off the edge of the building. Ymira rushes over, but he's already gone and no sign of where he might have hit the ground. Oh, I really like him. I may have to stop by for a visit sometime soon, Isma remarks. Grandmother, no. Centris would not survive, Ymira protests. You mean you wouldn't survive? Isma corrects in a teasing tone. Oh, young girls these days, so ashamed of their family. Grandma! Oh, what happened to my little tail gnawer? Oh, it's so sad. The merciless Isma continues as the axiom runs hard and fast over Ymira. If her species was any color other than jet black, she would be somewhere between neon pink and fluorescent red with how hard she'd be blushing. I still have the pictures, you know. I think that your husband would love to see. Goodbye, Grandma, Ymira asserts as she cuts the connection. In her mind, she can hear the ancient huntress giggling anyways. With that finished, she starts stalking and tries to figure out where the scent went. Herbert doesn't seem to be in the area as she goes up to the roof and hangs off the highest ceiling a few moments later. A bit of focus, and she can effectively see through the thin walls. The trail of heat is already dissipated as his clothing locks in enough to blur the trail. A quick bit of recon around the tower has a slightly fresher scent trail leading away. She jumps up into a nearby tree and starts racing along it with all 6 limbs and scurries up to the next-to-top floor of the nearest building. She starts scuttling along the underside while scanning the area as much as she can. A slight trail of heat leads away and she leaps down and starts loping after the trail. The scent is stronger and stronger as she homes in on her target. She brushes by some bushes and is slammed into from the side before there's a roll that ends up with Herbert on top. Remember, if they know they're being hunted, they blur the trail. Keep trying. Then he kisses her lightly and is gone again, causing her to rise up and focus. Okay, then. You want to play that way? We'll play that way. She then focuses and gets low to the ground again. Then she's up the nearest tree and craning her neck. There are several points of heat and axiom moving quickly. One of them, however, is making a point of avoiding the others. That's Herbert. She starts scuttling down and then launches herself to the nearby rooftop and races along it. Her back legs coil and launch her over to another rooftop, and she perches on the corner to rescan the area. Her cone of vision is thinner than most races, but the sheer clarity allows her to spot Herbert, and it is Herbert she's close enough to tell he's very good. He tends to stay below the sight lines of the other Zedin, but keeps a physical block between him and the Yaoya. He's clever, but the key to a good hunt is patience. With the other girls hounding him, and from what she can see, attracting the others to the area, he's going to have to leave. She races along the roofs and repositions. As more and more girls close in on the area, she repositions twice more and places herself along his escape route. She considers as the group presses down and he starts to bolt. Low to the ground at first before he hits the side of a building, goes through and then goes straight up. They're looking low, but he's up high and blitzing over the rooftops to get out of casual sight range of the Zedin after him. She takes a few moments and prepares herself as she partially hides and readies a pounce. A blur of dark blue and black starts to race by, and she slams into it from the side. It carries them both into the side of a building. The wall snaps open before snapping back into place, and she pins him to the ground. Thank goodness for the airbags. Airbags? Do these feel like they're full of air to you? Ymira demands, pressing her breasts up against him. They're a type of... You know what? Never mind, Herbert says as he reaches around and runs his fingers down the small of her back, causing an involuntary shudder. You got the prize? Now what are you going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with the prize of... Ymira begins to coo just in time for every wall and the ceiling to crash open as the rest of the hunters crash the party. The sheer impact causes the floor to snap open and they fall down 2 stories and land in a heap. Herbert's hysterical laughter fades into the distance as Ymira fumes and mentally counts to 10 so she can resist lashing out at her sister wives. Is there nothing he can't use to escape? Well, he's some kind of special spy or something, isn't he? Of course he's good, that's half the fun. He works in intelligence as an assistant to Sir Philip. That's not a spy. Is it? Read his books. But he's already gone. The Dauntless. I still find it rather far-fetched that your prediction time to terraform an entire planet is 15 years. I would expect it to take at least 100, Admiral Cistern remarks as he reads through the report in front of him. If we needed to supply an atmosphere and magnetic field and rotational axis, maybe, sir. However, the planet is already in the green zone, has an atmosphere. The scientist explains a toxic atmosphere, Admiral Cistern says as he turns a few pages and looks at the logistical number for growing new forests based off the statistical data of the lumber industry and its reforestation efforts. It's easier to cleanse an atmosphere than import one. Dotting, explain that to me. In summary, dotting is a style of terraforming where instead of trying to make a whole forest or a grassland or whatever form of environment you're trying to produce, you create on the small scale to allow yourself to experiment and not only find a proper method and fail faster in the experimentation process, but you quickly reach a point of saturation where nature itself takes over and spreads as nature is prone to. I think I'm beginning to understand. Without competition, the algae will spread over the oceans formed by the cometary impacts, and we can later import fish and detritus eaters to add biodiversity. I'm not sure what importing lawyers to a partially terraformed world will do, sir. I was thinking more crayfish and other such creatures, the scientist says, and there's a snort from Admiral Cistern. I'll be sure to pass the legal division your compliments, he says, and the scientist snickers. Now, from my own reading of this document and the understanding I have obtained so far, the plan is to alter the flight patterns of numerous comets to strike the world of Anriac 4 at an angle designed to cause its toxic atmosphere to cause sufficient heat friction to melt these enormous balls of ice. Are we going all the way up to apex predators? Will there be parasites and insects? What about microbial life? The smaller and more wriggling parts of nature may be unpleasant, but all are part of a larger whole. We're going to be careful about it. An experiment that we're going to attempt is that we're not going to introduce the microbiology that causes wood and bark to decay as we know it. Will that not throw things off balance? Only on a surface level. We actually have a snapshot of such things happening before, long ago in Earth's past. We're going to try to replicate it. Some clarification would be appreciated. Simply put, sir, all sources of coal around Earth are from such a time. The microbiology needed to rot wood as we know it is, in celestial terms, fairly young. Some races like the Tret actually trace back their species' history for longer periods of time. The scientist notes, and Admiral Cistern pauses, considers, and then rubs the side of his head at the concept of having a stable history for several million years at minimum. Remarkable, is all he says as he goes over the plan. I'm not seeing plans of proper observational infrastructure in here. Those have yet to be drawn up, sir. The local terrain must be accounted for. I see. And what kind of expenses are we looking at to accomplish all this? If they do, then the legal battle will be long, drawn out, and hefty on the budget. If not, however, then they will be fairly cheap, as several of our experimental ship designs could easily perform the redirection procedure, which would serve as an exceptional test for their capabilities as tugs. Yes, the scientist says, and Admiral Cistern pages through the report again. I see. Come back to me with some numbers beyond a basic time frame, and I'll give you an answer on whether to go ahead or not. I like what I'm seeing so far, Admiral Cistern says, shutting the folder and handing it back. Yes, sir, the scientist says and salutes before walking out. A spot of coffee, sir? Sir Philip says, arriving with a small trolley. Please. I clearly do not have a head for terraforming, Admiral Cistern says, and quickly has a large mug of dark, caffeinated goodness in front of him with a brownie to the side. Thank you. May I offer some insights of my own, sir? Sir Philip asks, and Admiral Cistern nods before taking a sip of the coffee. An entire world is of immense value. Couple it with the closeness of a weapon manufacturing company's testing area, and it will bring their scientists and researchers to the world in as either tourists or prospective residents, which, if we offer a discount, could be used to gain an enormous amount of both influence and goodwill. Canid Solutions is a very well-regarded and wealthy company. Having them as allies would serve very well. I agree. And I must confess the political landscape makes more sense than all the unending finicky bits of environmental building and maintenance, Admiral Cistern says. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, sir. Not one person can do everything, Sir Philip remarks. Oh, I don't know. You've convinced most of the crew that you can, Admiral Cistern says with a sniff as he takes another drink. He really needs the caffeine. The morning had started early and had not let up until this moment. Technically, the brownie would be his breakfast, and at a glance there are nuts baked into it. Good. He needs everything he can get. One does one's best, sir, Sir Philip remarks, and Admiral Cistern chuckles. Tell me, how much setup is involved in your tricks? I know you're getting help to get things done, but how many more men are in this room? 6, sir, Sir Philip remarks, and Admiral Cistern's eyebrows rise up. I see. Are they all armed? Minimally, sir. Stealth is prioritized. So they have knives and holdout pistols, Sir Philip answers. Excellent. Just because things have been friendly doesn't mean they can't go wrong. I had a very interesting report earlier. I am aware, sir, Sir Philip says, not clarifying what he's aware of. The soldiers I've dispatched to Octaron Spin are being groomed to serve as its command crew when its current master retires. This came as a confession from Captain Minisi, who has further elaborated that every interaction with humanity she has had thus far has been nothing but a test to better understand us. I see, sir. Do you? We're being watched, Philip. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if all of our operational security has been nothing but a polite fiction from them to us. These aliens are effectively ageless, and even what appear to be their children could be thousands of years old. Perhaps, sir. In truth, most lose their lives before finding a 4th digit on the age registry. Accident, violence, spontaneous sickness, or even depression and suicide pare down the number substantially, Sir Philip says, and Admiral Cistern nods. Perhaps it is not a worst-case scenario, but we are still competing with and trying to understand the motives of beings many hundreds of years of age. Must they be so complicated? If one were to stretch out their lifespan, you could almost consider the first century of someone's life a childhood of a sort. I've done a great deal of poking about. Many peoples of many races rarely move beyond the stereotypical depictions before tragedy or accident take them, Sir Philip says. More the pity, Admiral Cistern remarks as he thinks. So, is there something you would like to inform me of as I regain my energy, or are the impeccable manners veiling an actual appreciation for my company? You're not so unpleasant to be around as you may think, sir, Sir Philip assures him with a smile. You would have scarcely attracted 2 very high-ranked women into officially wedding you and throwing their not inconsiderable political weight into your corner without some redeeming qualities. Have I? I assumed it was more along the lines of there being an enormous demand for men, and therefore the highest-ranking women around would naturally be attracted to the highest-ranking men around. Admiral Cistern notes. Sir, what is bothering you? Sir Philip asks, and Admiral Cistern grows quiet. Sir, you have a duty to perform. If you allow your own issues to pile up, then it will affect your ability to lead. All men have burdens, and the command class more than any other must remain mentally and emotionally unburdened to best serve their people. It weighs on me sometimes, Admiral Cistern says, putting down his mug and slumping into himself. My sons. It's that mess. I will likely never, ever see them again. If they hear about me, it will likely be a massive case of slander portraying me as some madman who ran off with the Dauntless. Even if that isn't the case, then what on or off Earth will they think of my remarrying with aliens, or of the children that are undoubtedly approaching? My wife may have turned against me, but I suppose some small part of me hoped to reconcile with them. Will that ever be possible? Will they die hating me? Sir Philip says before removing his monocle and tucking it away. He moves out of his stiff, formal posture and pats the Admiral on the shoulder. Chin up, old bean, we're in new waters. Right now, it's months between contact, but a bit of advancement, and we may shorten it to days or even hours in no time. Not to mention, I'm certain that you'll be able to find a way to lure both of them off of Earth and have at least a chance to present your case to them. Not to mention, I'm positive Nikti and Jacqueline would love to meet them both. Yes, however. No, ifs, ands, buts, or howevers, sir. This is the first time this kind of thing has happened. Not to mention you're a resourceful type. If you want your sons here on Centris beside you, then there are few forces that can stop it, Sir Philip says before letting out a rueful chuckle. And as blasphemous as it may be, I doubt Queen or country are either willing or, God save me, capable of stopping such a thing. You want your sons? Give the order and they will be standing beside you within the year. Admiral Cistern chuckles to himself somewhat, and he sits up properly once more. Perhaps we should explore the more legal avenues before we burn bridges with a double kidnapping. If you insist, sir, if you insist, Sir Philip says as he once more affixes his monocle in place. Now then, perhaps if you were to eat, sir. The older man makes no reaction.